Daily 16-8 fasting feels incredibly productive until it suddenly stops working. And when that happens, it's not a failure of willpower, it is biology. When you compare 12-hour fasts, 24-hour fasts, 36-hour fasts, and even 72-hour fasts, you can actually see exactly where the standard 16-8 routine goes wrong. You can see why it eventually slows down the very metabolism that you were trying to speed up. I remember a moment years ago. I was doing 16-8 just about every single day. I felt sharp, I felt light, I had all those positive feelings you expect. But then, one morning, I woke up and just felt flat. My energy was low, my strength had dipped. I remember thinking, how am I eating less, but somehow burning less? It felt like my engine just wasn't running hot anymore. That moment sent me down a scientific rabbit hole to understand the frequency of fasting, not just the duration. Once you understand this mechanism and you see it, you can't unsee it. Fasting becomes more reliable, more dependable, and honestly, much more sustainable. So here is where we are going today. We are going to keep it clear and not get lost in the weeds, but we have 3 specific areas to cover. First, we look at what fasting actually does to metabolic rate. There is a sweet spot where it increases and a tipping point where it nosedives. Second, we look at glucose tolerance. The goal isn't just to burn fat today, it's to become metabolically flexible long-term so you don't have to fast forever. Third, we put it all together so you know exactly how often to fast without wrecking your metabolic rate or your glucose control. Let's jump into section 1, the metabolism piece. There is a study from the British Journal of Nutrition that might be one of the most misunderstood fasting papers in existence. They looked at 3 groups: 12-hour fasts, 36-hour fasts, and 72-hour fasts. Intuitively, you would think that the longer you go, the more your metabolism ramps up. We know fasting increases epinephrine, norepinephrine, and adrenaline. Things do ramp up. That is partially true, but only up to a point. Here is what they actually found. After 12 hours, the metabolic rate barely changed. It was neutral. There was more fat oxidation, sure, but the rate of burn was static. However, after about 24 to 36 hours, the metabolic rate was increasing. Your body ramps up norepinephrine. You get a major increase in circulating fatty acids combined with adrenaline. This puts you into a high-gear fat-burning mode. You have officially upshifted. But here is the catch. After 72 hours, the metabolic rate does not go any higher than the 36-hour mark. Short-term fasting increases catecholamines, adrenaline and noradrenaline, which protects you and keeps energy expenditure from dropping. But once you extend beyond 36 hours, or if you fast too frequently, the body recognizes a pattern. This tells us that a well-timed long fast speeds your metabolism up. But doing it too often, or stacking calorie restriction on top of it on your eating days, will slow it down. This brings us to point number 2. Short-term fasting is just one side of the coin. The other side is what happens when you are chronically under-eating without realizing it. This was my problem for half a decade. You get hooked on feeling good with lower calories, but there is a study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition that highlights the danger. They looked at people who overate for 1 week, then went into a 50% caloric deficit for 3 weeks, then refed for 2 weeks. 3 weeks of what most people would consider dieting hard. In that short window, their resting metabolic rate tanked. It dropped by 266 calories per day. Almost half of that drop was adaptive thermogenesis. The body voluntarily slowed itself down to survive. They also lost 5% of their muscle mass in just 3 weeks, which dropped their metabolism even further. So, if your fasting routine turns into chronic calorie restriction, especially with daily 16-8, you can unintentionally shut down the system you are trying to speed up. This is why people feel great for the first couple of weeks, and then they stall. It becomes a lifestyle, but nothing changes. Within 14 to 21 days of continuous reduction, your metabolism downshifts. It's not months, it's weeks. Here is the kicker. That slowdown does not happen with infrequent, strategically placed fasts. Why? Because the body interprets those as acute, temporary stressors, not starvation. You also need your body to recover and build off those fasts. Fasting triggers cellular repair and autophagy. But then you need to rebuild. It takes protein and calories to rebuild structures. Think of the mitochondria. They go through mitophagy to consolidate and get stronger. But if you don't have periods of rebuilding, that consolidation doesn't do you any good. The stressor is the signal. The food is the repair. You cannot just consolidate forever. It's like taking all the junked vehicles in a yard and consolidating parts to make one supercar. But then you have to put fuel in that supercar. Otherwise, it is just sitting there. There are compounds like urolithin A that help induce this mitochondrial autophagy, known as mitophagy. This helps clear out the old machinery so you can rebuild stronger, effectively simulating some benefits of fasting, even when you aren't. So, step 1 is don't crash your metabolism. Now, let's jump to part 2, glucose tolerance. Fat loss isn't just about what you burn today. It's about how well your cells respond to insulin tomorrow. A study in the Journal of Applied Physiology had subjects fast for either 13 hours or 72 hours before a test meal. After the 72-hour fast, fat oxidation was higher, as expected, but glucose tolerance got worse. Blood sugar spiked higher. Insulin spiked higher. The body had been running on fat and didn't want to switch gears back to carbs. Researchers think this is due to elevated free fatty acids impairing insulin signaling. So, ultra-long fasts burn fat like crazy, but if done too often, you lose the ability to process carbs normally. However, a counter-study in endocrinology showed that mice doing 3 separated 24-hour fasts per week saw their glucose tolerance improve dramatically. Frequency is everything. Shorter fasts done intermittently with breaks improve insulin sensitivity. Ultra-long fasts done too frequently impair it. It's about balance, not going full bore all the time. So let's tie it all together. How often should you actually fast? If you fast every day with 16-8 and undereat, you have a 2 to 3 week window before metabolism slows. The research suggests you do not need to fast every day. In fact, not fasting every day is what keeps metabolism high. One 36-hour fast per week or 2 non-consecutive 24-hour fasts gives you the norepinephrine bump without the metabolic downshift. Consistency doesn't mean every day. It means repeatable. It means a system your body can adapt to without defending itself. If you do daily 16-8, take a break every 7 to 14 days. Let your metabolism breathe for 2 to 3 days. If you like longer fasts, do them sparingly, once a week or every 10 days, and keep your protein high during eating windows to preserve muscle. Pay attention to your biofeedback. If energy drops, strength dips, or sleep suffers, that is your warning sign of metabolic conservation. It's not about discipline, it's about rhythm. When you hit the right rhythm, your metabolism stops fighting you and starts working with you. Thank you for watching the entire video. Don't forget to click like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the latest videos.